Let's go to Mr. Rogers. What's up? He says, my worst of the weekend is Caitlin Clark's career not finishing with a national championship.
Doesn't mean she isn't great, though. Iowa didn't have any depth.
No.
If you look, that was the biggest difference in that game. And I do want to give, we'll say when Dawn Staley's wrong, I think she's wrong. I thought her giving Caitlin Clark a shout out, getting the person to bring the mic back and say that she is one of the greatest to play women's college basketball. And for some reason, like all these women complain about their sports not being elevated, and yet when somebody does it, like they just crap all over. Like did anybody else notice that? And then all of a sudden after the loss, they started backtracking. Well, here's Sue Bird. Thanks for the memories. Like it shocks me that you want your sport to be out there. All of a sudden it does. Caitlin Clark's helping break records for views, and she's not the only one, but she's the main catalyst. And you just knock her down. Like I didn't understand that, but I thought Dawn Staley showed a lot of class.
That's what happens when you're on top, man. People try to knock Nick Saban down, Tom Brady down, so she should take it as a badge of honor. She had 18 points in the first quarter of the national championship. 18 points. Kind of disappeared a little bit at the end, but South Carolina was just so much better at every single.
She struggled dribbling the ball.
And then the Sue Bird thing, like a lot of those, they went to UConn, right? Which
it was Breonna Stewart. And look, I get it, but I don't think it should just be like when Jay Williams said, oh, well, you can't consider her great because she didn't win a ring. I mean, imagine taking that.
She's going to play for a long time.
Yeah.
A bunch of champions.
Imagine taking that and putting it everywhere else around sports. Like, man, I guess Dan Marino was great.
Exactly. I think the Iowa-UConn Final Four matchup peaked at 17 million viewers, something like that. That's wild.
It is wild.
That's more than any NBA game or World Series in the past 4 years, I believe.
All right, let's go to Holden. I'm not saying your last name, but great username, dude. Great username. Says, no logic in arguing you need a championship to be one of the greatest. Being the greatest is an individual achievement. Championships are a team accomplishments. It's very simple.
Yeah, I agree with that. It just, it helps, right? If we're talking about the greatest of all, we have to understand the difference between the conversation of the greatest and then the conversation of the greatest of all time.
Is he talking about Caitlin Clark, Phil?
Yeah. Okay. Like, to be the greatest of all time, I think you do have to win a championship, but not to be great, right? Just to be great. Like, I think Karl Malone, incredible basketball player. He never won it, right? When we talk about MJ and LeBron, what does it always go back to, right? If we're talking about the greatest of all time, we look at the individual awards, but you look at the championships won, right? That's one of the biggest kind of deciding factors. Lionel Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo, right? What was that? Well, who's going to win the World Cup? And I think if you're parsing and splitting hairs like that, if we were going to say, is Caitlin Clark the greatest women's basketball player of all time? No. Is she great? Yes. We don't need to conflate the two.
Well, part of the issue that I took with what Jay Williams said about her is he's only taken into account her college career. She's about to play for a long time. I mean, what if she wins 10 WNBA championships or something? I don't know what her high school record is, but what if she won a state?
Well, sure, it's good.
Well, on that same note,
this is the only level you're taking into account on whether or not she won championships. And the toughest part about college is you only get max 4 years. I mean, I know some people get more with the COVID eligibility and all that kind of stuff, but you only get to play 4 years in college. And kudos to her for not transferring out like all these other players did to go form a super team at LSU or at South Carolina. I mean, she could have gone to either one of those programs and they would have beaten all of the teams even worse than they just beat the teams.
Yeah, no, they could have, she could have teamed up with Haley Van Lith and Angel Reese, and they could have just basically been a WNBA team out there playing, but she didn't, and good for her.
We have to react to the foul call at the end of the Iowa-UConn game.
Yeah, I do.
Talking about this. They called an offensive foul. Run this. Here's the pick here.
Right here.
Foul.
Everyone's talking about you can't call that with 5 seconds left in the game.
Well, then why is it in the rule book?
Exactly.
If you can't call it with 5, you can't officiate like that.
No.
Like, it's either a foul and it's been a foul, or it's not a foul and it hasn't been a foul. That's a moving screen.
Doesn't matter how much time's left on the clock.
You can't.
Go ask the Saints versus the Rams.
So none of you think that that's a bad call?
No, and
you're moving.
There's a lot better angle from a video that has the backside behind the person who's throwing the ball in. It's a move. First of all, it's a high pick, and two, it's a moving.
So you're out in the open.
Well, if
that's funny that you say it because when they called this, I was thinking there was 3 or 4 possessions in a row earlier, like I guess, a minute and a half before this happened, where I was like, man, they're letting UConn just move on all these screens to try and get Beckers open, and they didn't call it, but it was all down low. So when you're setting a pickup
You're
high,
ISO'd
just
up top.
more
You're visible.
exposed. Yeah.
Well, I think that's a blatant foul. Like, I don't think that's close. I could maybe understand the argument of, hey, the whole game we've officiated this way. We've been letting them play a little bit. If it's kind of in between, we're just going to consider it not a foul, and that's the way we've been calling it. That wasn't that. Like, that was a blatant moving screen, in my opinion.
I agree.
What's up, everybody on YouTube? Do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button if you don't mind. Really appreciate it. It helps us grow the show. If you like the content we're putting out, we appreciate it.